Well, good morning, everybody. So let us start the subject. The subject name is Information and Communication Theory. In this subject, we will be actually dealing with how the communication theory actually came into existence. It was all due to one of the great scientists, Claude Shannon. In 1948, he gave a landmark paper on mathematical theory of communication. So in that paper, what was there? Claude Shannon gave a mathematical framework by which you can measure the information. All these things yesterday I was taking one tute, and there also I was talking about what Claude Shannon do. We will discuss the invention, or rather I should call it the framework, the mathematical framework that he has developed. We will discuss that part in detail. And all these things you talk about, what is the data rate, what is how many bits per second, that means you are able to measure the information, right? So it was the work of Claude Shannon, which actually made it possible that you can quantify the information, right? And he gave two theorems. One is the source coding theorem, which is actually driving all the compression algorithms like your WinZip, gzip, or any kind of compression algorithms. The principles come from the source coding theorem and the fundamental idea involved in that. And the second theorem he gave was the channel coding theorem. In that theorem, when you are transmitting the information from transmitter to receiver, how you can make that communication so that the noise is automatically brought to minimum. So we will discuss all these things in detail in this subject. But to start with, I have already shared the syllabus of information theory with you. And in that syllabus, we have to start from the review of probability. So I will take one lecture, today's lecture only, to discuss some basic principles of probability, which you already know. I need not to explain the probability theory to you because you have all done in your +2. But still, let us spend one lecture on two theorems basically, which I want to do. One is the total probability theorem, the other is the Bayes theorem. And I would like to spend some time on how the Bayes theorem is useful to make inferences. All right, so let us start with the multiplication principle in probability. So let us say, and this is counting with the, I request you please mute your microphones. You have all studied the permutations and combinations. I will take one or two examples just to revise very quickly. The first is the multiplication principle. If any questions come to your mind, you can ask in between also. There is no issue. So it is counting with repetition. That means you can consider with replacement. So let us say E1, E2 up to E and B sequence of some n independent events. And if Ek, where k is an index which goes from 1 to n, then there are m1 into m2 into m3 into mn ways for all n events to occur. So this is the basic multiplication principle. So let me explain this with the help of an example. These examples I did in the yesterday's tutorial also, and in the overall tutorial sheet number 1 for this subject, I have included these examples, the same examples I have included. So the first example is how many different combinations can be made. The people for whom I have taken the tute yesterday, so I did it there. So just bear with me for 10 minutes. I will review all these things and then I will start the other topic. So how many different combinations can be made for a briefcase that has a 3-dial lock with each dial having numbers from 0 to 9? So that means 3 points are there. This is the first dial, second dial, and in the first dial, you can create a lock arrangement, a lock sequence from 0 to 9 digits. So that means you have 10 options available here. For the second dial also, you have 10 options available, and for the third dial, you have 10 options available. So multiplication principle says that you have to multiply 10 by 10 by 10. So that means 1000 combinations are possible for creating a lock, a sequence for a briefcase, right? So this is the multiplication principle. Right. So let's take another example. How many license plates can be made if the first three entries must be letters followed by 3 numbers? So you have to develop license plates. First 3 entries need to be letters, and the next 3 entries need to be digits. So since the English alphabet has 26 letters, so that means the first option available to you is 26 multiplied by 26, for the second one 26, for the third one 10, 10 and 10, because these are digits. All right, this is counting with replacement, because for the first any combination from any possibility from A to Z is there, and you can repeat that also. From the second place can also be occupied by any of the letter from A to Z, right? So if you multiply 26 by 26 by 26, 10, 10, 10, so you will get these many license plates possible. All right. Another question can be, suppose you take an MCQ exam that has 10 questions, each question has 5 answers. So how many different ways could that exam be answered? So 10 questions are there, 5 options are there, as I have tried to show here. So for the first question, how many possibilities can be there? 5. So 5 times 10, the total number of ways by which you can answer is 5 to the power 10. So these 3 examples actually explain the multiplication principle with counting with replacement. Right? Okay. So next is one slide on permutations. Here it is counting without replacement, so that you need to remember when you did it, and the order matters. And it is represented usually by P n comma r n factorial divided by n minus r factorial. So let's take an example straight away. Suppose 10 horses run a race, and how many different ways could first place, second place, and third place occur? Right. This is a permutation problem because it is counting without replacement. So what is the meaning of counting without replacement? If a horse comes first, you cannot come at the second place. You cannot replace that horse with the first or the second place. So if it comes first, it is first. Right. So this is counting without replacement, and the order matters because let's say horse A comes first, B comes second, and C comes third. Then it will be a different outcome if A comes third, B comes first, or C comes second. So that means the order matters here. If you change the order, the outcome changes. So therefore, it is a permutation problem, and the answer, and it is given by 10, 3, 10 factorial divided by 7 factorial. The answer is 720. Right. Then another example can be, suppose there is a class of 20 students and election. So out of a class of 20 students, you have to choose president and class vice president. How many different ways could the candidates be picked? So this is again sampling without replacement, because if a person becomes president, he cannot be vice president. So you can't replace the same person with both the posts. And the order matters. What is the order matter means if a certain person is president, he cannot be vice president at the same time, right? So if you change the person, that means the outcome will change. So therefore the order matters, and the total number of possibilities will be 380. Third example can be, a softball team has 10 players. How many batting orders are possible? So 10 players are there. If everyone gets to bat, then how many batting orders are possible? So this is P 10, 10, because anybody can come at any position. So 10 possibilities are there. So 10, 10. So the answer is 10 factorial. Right. So these are some very simple examples of permutation, just to give a reminder to you only. Then let's talk about the combinations. It is again counting without replacement, but order does not matter here. And it is usually represented by NCR. These are usual representations of the combinations. Let's take first example. Suppose 10 horses run a race and you would like to know in how many ways 3 horses can finish in first, second, and third, or in any order. I'm directly specifying here that you need not to bother about the order, but you're only concerned with the first, second, and how many ways the first, second, and third position can be possible. Which order they come, that does not matter. So therefore, it is a combination problem. 10C3, the formula for the combination, this is the n factorial divided by n minus r factorial divided by r factorial. So 120 possibilities are there. Another example is on a test, a student must select 6 out of 10 questions. In how many ways can this be done? So 6 questions are to be selected from 10 questions, right? 6 out of 10 questions. So any questions can be attempted first or second. So the order does not matter. So therefore, it is again a combination problem. 10C6, the answer is 210. So what I have done till now, I have completed 3 principles of counting. One is the multiplication principle, the other is the permutations, the third is the combination. And these counting strategies are required for directly lead to the probability outcomes of any event. Let's see that. So let's try to do the probability modeling. Actually, the concern here is not to teach probability here, but the point is that the probability and statistics are the fundamental tools on which the major branches of engineering rest. For example, the communication theory, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these things find their basis from the probability theory. Just to explain, if you send, as far as the communication theory is concerned, how the probability is important here. If you send a signal sitting at Delhi and you are making a phone call to, let's say, USA, so what happens is, when you are sending your information from Delhi to USA, the person sitting in USA does not know what is being sent from Delhi. So it is all the electronics, it is all the technology that is taking the information from Delhi to USA. And it is based on the probabilistic models. Sitting at USA, your electronic hardware or electronic device will try to decode what has been sent from the what probably has been sent from Delhi, right? This is just a crude example of explaining how the probability modeling is important in engineering. But once you go through the topics, you will come to know that probability and statistics are the fundamental tools based on which you will design your all communication engineering, or even artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence or machine learning involves predictions. Predictions you can do only on the basis of probability, and to analyze the data, you will have to use these statistical tools, correct? So counting is important here, as we have already seen. So I need not to discuss much about this, but let us say what is probability. Let's say A is an event. What the probability of occurrence of that event is given by number of outcomes favorable to A divided by the total number of outcomes. So that's how we define the probability, and the probability value lies between 0 to 1, right? Phone numbers, calculate the probability of the next person you meet having a phone number that ends in 5. So last digit has to be 5. Last digit can have how many options? 10 options are there. Total number of options are 10. So 5 is there. So the probability is 1 by 10. Number of outcomes favorable to 5 are 1. Right, total number of outcomes are 10. So the probability is this. Calculate the probability of getting all the heads if you flip 3 coins. Now, if you flip 3 coins, these are the 8 possibilities. But you need to find out the probability of getting all the heads. All the heads you can see from the outcomes. The outcomes favorable to all heads is only 1. Total number of outcomes are 8. So the probability is 1 by 8. And you can easily correlate it with the multiplication principle, because the first position head, second position head, third position head. 3 positions are there. How many possibilities are there for the first position? 2, 2, and 2. So 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, 8 is the 8 are the total number of outcomes. All right. Now let's see, calculate the probability of getting all heads if you flip 5 coins. So it has to be multiplied by, the total number of outcomes have to be multiplied by 5. You can skip this part of just probability, and this is calculating probability involving AND statements. Let's see that. So this is important when 2 events are independent. That means the happening of one event does not affect the happening of the other event. So therefore, the 2 events will be called as the independent events. So 2 events are independent if the outcome of one event does not affect the likelihood of the other event. Right? Let A and B be independent events, then the probability of A and B occurring. So probability of A and B occurring is, this is how we represent it, the AND function, P A intersection B. This actually tells us the probability of happening of A and B. So this is given by PA into PB. That means the probability of happening of A into probability of happening of B. Right? The example can be flipping head and rolling a dice, let's say. All right. So first event is the tossing of a coin. The second event is throwing a dice. So 2 events are independent of each other. Right. So you're looking for head in the first event and you're looking for 5 in the second event. So these 2 are independent events. That means if you are tossing a coin or you are throwing a dice, these 2 are independent events. Clear? So what is the probability of getting a head? It is 1 by 2. What is the answer? The answer will be the probability, individual multiplication of the individual probabilities. Probability of flipping a head into probability of rolling a 5, getting a 5 when you roll a dice. Right. So what is the probability of getting a head is 1 by 2. Probability of getting 5 is 1 by 6. So the probability of happening of both the events is 1 by 12. So that the important point is to understand what are independent events and how you can calculate the probability of the independent event. Then let's see let's take examples here. 2 events are dependent if the outcome of one event does not affect the likelihood of does affect the likelihood of the other event. So these are dependent events. All right. The earlier case was independent events, and the probability of the happening of 2 independent events is equal to the individual multiplication of the individual probability. Now let us look at the probability of happening of the dependent events. 2 events are dependent if the outcome of one event does affect the likelihood of the other event. Let's take an example. In this box, there are 20 marbles, 10 red marbles are there and 10 blue marbles are there. I am representing the you have to pick a marble from the box. So you have to pick 2 marbles actually. Drawing a blue marble, you have to draw 2 blue marbles. The box contains 20 marbles, 10 red marbles are there and 10 blue marbles are there. So you have to find out the probability of drawing 2 blue marbles, right? But these are dependent events. How? Because when you draw the first blue marble, the number of blue marbles earlier was 10. Now the blue marble, for the second time, the number of blue marbles will be 9. So the 2 events are dependent. So you have to find out the probability of drawing of the first blue marble and the probability and the drawing of the second blue marble. So how these probabilities will be given? Now, first time when you have to draw the blue marble, what is the probability? How many blue marbles are there? 10 blue marbles are there. Total number of marbles are 20. So what is the probability? 10 by 20. But in the second case, the blue marbles are 9 and the total number of marbles are 19, right? So 10 by 20 into 9 by 19. So this is the probability of drawing 2 blue marbles. How you can represent this? This is probability of how it is given. Probability of drawing the first blue marble and the probability and the second blue marble. These two, the ending is defined by, can be explained by probability of drawing the first blue marble into the probability of drawing the second blue marble, but given the first blue marble is already drawn. So that means it is a conditional probability here. So probability dB1 into probability dB2 given dB1, right? So that's how the independent events and the dependent events will be different from each other, and their probability and their the happening of the two or more independent and dependent events will be different from each other, because in the dependent events you will get the conditional probability. All right. Then let's see what is this at least one scenario in the calculations of the probability. We know that probability of an event A plus the probability of occurrence or not occurrence of that event is 1. And probability of occurrence of event A is given is 1 minus P, its not occurrence, probability of not occurrence. So let's take an example here. Probability of an earthquake in North India is, let's say, 0.02. 2% probability is there, right? Probability of 7.5 magnitude earthquake or larger in North India during any given year. So there is a possibility of 2% or probability of 0.02 that you can get an earthquake of 7.5 magnitude or more in North India in any year. So the probability is 0.02. Assuming independence. So what is the assumption of independence? Assumption of independence is that the happening of an earthquake in 1 year, or then the second year, or then the third year. So these events are independent. So that's the meaning of assuming independence here. Assuming independence, what is the probability that North India has at least one earthquake in next 25 years, right? So what is the probability of happening of the earthquake? It is 0.02. And what is the probability of not happening of the earthquake is 0.98, right? And in the question, we have to solve for at least one earthquake for 25 years, in next 25 years. Clear? So we can use this expression here. Probability of at least one earthquake in next 25 years, it can be given by 1 minus probability of no earthquake in 25 years. How it can be explained? 1 minus probability of no earthquake in first year and no earthquake in second year and no earthquake in third year and no earthquake and so on, and no earthquake in 25 years, right? So there will be 25 intersections here for these events. And we have assumed that these are independent events. The happening of the earthquake in first, second, third, and so on, up to 25 years is independent. And we know that once we are having the intersection and the events are independent, they can be individually multiplied. So 1 minus 0.98 for the first year, 0.98 for the second year, and up to 25 times. So if you solve this, you will be able to get the answer for probability of at least one earthquake in next 25 years. You can find out the answer. So let's talk about what is conditional probability. All these things I know that you have already done, but still just a quick revision. Conditional probability. Conditional probability provides us with a way to reason about the outcome of an experiment based on partial information. All right. So it is represented by, so two events are there, A and B, right? and the probability, the conditional probability A given B is given by probability of A and B divided by the probability of the B. So this is how the conditional probability is defined. If PB equals 0, then PA given B is undefined. So PA given B is out of the total probability of the elements of B, the fraction that is assigned to possible outcome that also belongs to A. Out of the total probability of the elements of B, the fraction that is assigned to possible outcome that also belongs to A. That means literally, if you try to understand this, is that B has happened, and from the end, so once B has happened, you are given B, and so you can use that information to find out A. So how can you correlate it with the information or communication technology? Is that once you send a bit from transmitter to receiver, let's say at the receiver you receive 1, right? Now you have to estimate what is the next bit, but you are given the previous bit. So what is the how you can make a decision at the receiver end? You have received the previous bit and you are trying to estimate the present bit. All right. So this is a conditional probability example where, based on the previous information that you have received, you are trying to estimate the present bit, right? If let's say B is the previous bit received, A is the present bit that is coming, which you have to estimate. So it will be probability of A given B. So that's how you can understand the importance of conditional probability usage in communication theory, and you will see many more techniques in which this will be used. The concepts will be used. Correct. Then we can take an example here. We toss a fair coin 3 successive times, right? Find the conditional probability when A and B are the events as. So events are defined as. So you're tossing 3 coins and events are defined like this. So what is event A? Event A says that more heads than tail comes up. So number of 3 time tossing means more number of heads will be more. And what is the second event? Second event says that first toss is a head. So there is a condition that when you toss the coin first time, it should be head, and the number of heads should be more than the tail. So these are all the possible outcomes. These are the 2 events. Let's find out the individual probabilities. Let's find out the probability B, probability of event B. So first toss is a head, right? So how many outcomes are there which favor to this event? 1, 2, 3, and 4. First toss is a head. So probability is 4 by 8. Probability of happening of the event B is 4 by 8. And what is the probability of A and B? That means your heads need to be more than the number of tails, and the first has to be a head. So there are 3 outcomes. So that means this probability will be given by 3 by 8. All right. So given B, what is the probability of A? If you try to find out the conditional probability, so you know that probability A intersection B, you need to apply this formula: PA and B divide PA intersection B divided by the PB. All right. So you have calculated PB and PA intersection B, so you can find out PA given B, and which is 3 by 4. All right. This is how the conditional, you can use the conditional probability to explain the events. Now, these are important theorems. Actually, first is the total probability theorem, and the second we will do is the Bayes theorem. Now let's look at the total probability theorem first. This, let's say, rectangle defines the sample space, right? There are partitions done with the event B1, B2, and B3. So these are the sample space is partitioned like P1, B2, B3, and there is an event A happening. So let's see, S is the sample space. B1, B2, B3 events partition the sample space, as I have already told you, just now told. B1, B2, B3 are disjoint because B1 intersection B2 intersection B3 is a null set. So that means these three events are disjoint events, meaning by no two events can happen at the same time. All these three events, but all these three events make up the complete sample space. B1, B2, B3 make up the sample space, but these are disjoint events. Now, any event in the sample space, and let's say that event is A, consists of, no, A consists of parts of B1, parts of B2, parts of B3, right? Let me explain once again. S is the sample space. B1, B2, B3 are the three disjoint events, right? And there is an event A, which consists of part of B1, part of B2, and part of B3, right? And we want to find out the probability of occurrence of event A. So we can use the total probability theorem. How? We can write, so it clearly tells us some part is A and B1, some part is A and B2, some part is A and B3. So what is our A event? A event will be given by A intersection B1 union A intersection B2 union A intersection B3. So that's how the A will be, event A will be happening. And what is the probability associated with that? So probability of A will be given by probability A and B1 plus probability A and B2 plus probability A and B3. Right? And we know that probability of A and B is given by probability A, excuse me, probability A, because we have seen this formula. Probability A given B is given by probability A and B divided by probability of B. So probability A and B will be given by probability A given B into probability B. So we can use this formula to replace probability A intersection B. So while calculating the probability of A, you have obtained P, the probability of A intersection B1 plus probability of A intersection B2 plus probability of A intersection B3. And we know that probability of A intersection B is probability of A given B, conditional probability of A given B, and the probability of B. So you can replace all the terms with this result. You will find out that what is the probability of A? It is given by probability A given B1 into probability of B1 plus PA given B2 into probability of B2 plus PA given B3 into probability of B3. So this is known as the total probability theorem, right? This is total probability theorem. And let me take an example here to exemplify this total probability theorem. You have three bags, bag A, B, and C. In bag A, there are 2 red balls and 3 green balls. In bag B, there are 3 red balls and 2 green balls. Bag C contains 1 red ball and 4 green balls. Right? A ball is randomly selected from a random bag. So you're drawing one of the ball randomly from any of the bags. What is the probability that the ball is red? So you have to find out the probability. You can correlate with the total probability theorem. So there is an event A, which is some part is B1, some part is B2, some part is B3. And if you see this example here, what is the event? The event is the drawing of the selecting the red ball. But selecting the red ball, and there are 3 bags, bag A, B, C. So bag A, B, C are the partitions of the sample space. You select bag A, you select bag B, you select bag C. These are 3 independent events, right? But these 3 events make the full sample space. And the drawing of the red ball actually covers all the 3 bags, bag A, bag B, and bag C. So that means it is a perfect total probability theorem example. So you have to find out the probability of red ball, but probability, so this is equal to probability of bag A. Let us say you select red ball from bag A, right? This is probability that you select bag A and the ball is red. The second term is probability that you select red ball from bag B. The third term is you select red ball from bag C, right? So this is how you will be able to get the probability of the red ball. So probability of bag A and red ball, this can be given by probability of red ball given A bag into probability of A bag. Probability of B bag and red ball is given by probability of red ball given B bag into probability of B bag, and so on. So let us see what is the probability of red ball if you have A bag. How many red balls are there? 2. How many total number of balls are there? 5. So what is this probability? 2 by 5. What is the probability of selection of A bag? It is 1 by 3, because 3 bags are there. You have to select 1. So the probability is 1 by 3. What is the second term? Second term says that you select red ball from bag B. How many red balls are there? 3. How many total number of balls are there? 5. So it is 3 by 5. So what is the probability of selection of bag B? It is 1 by 3. So this is how you can apply. I think it clearly exemplifies the total probability theorem. And you can, in general, you can write the total probability theorem, because I am taking the example of 3 partition events, 3 events which are partitioning the complete sample space. But you can take you can take a general case in which the probability of A will be given by PA and BI. So I is an index, so it's a variable, so you can put 3, 4, 5 and so on. It is the summation here, and this is given by probability A given BI into probability BI. This is how you can find out the probability of A, or probability of, in this example we took the probability of red ball, but here I'm taking the general case. So this explains the total probability theorem, right? So let me quickly also discuss what is Bayes' theorem. At least that will complete the topic, explaining the probability theory, right? So you try to solve the tute sheets. Yesterday also I was talking about, it is important. You can get the, I know you are very expert in probability and you can get the answers without applying this kind of formula. But please try to get the answers after understanding the question and then correlating the question with the total probability theorem or the Bayes theorem, right? I think it will be based on Bayes theorem in which you will need to use the total probability theorem. So in your mind, it should be there that you are not solving probability question to get marks. But in your mind, it should be there that you are trying to take an example to understand and correlate the total probability theorem and the Bayes theorem. So that's the goal actually. Probability questions you have done, number of questions you have done here, plus and plus. Okay, so let us talk about the Bayes theorem. If you have some data and then make some claim about the probability of some hypothesis, what is the meaning? Let us say you develop some hypothesis in your mind. So what is the hypothesis? The hypothesis is, let's say we in a city of Delhi, I want to find out how many people are there who are businessmen. So that is my hypothesis, right? I want to find out the businessman people. But the question is that how should I be able to do that? I need some data, right? So hypothesis can be anything. In Bayes theorem, basically you have to do what? You have to find out the probability of hypothesis, probability of a certain hypothesis given data. So that's the meaning of PH given D. Probability of a hypothesis given data. Right? This is also known as the posterior probability, a posterior probability, posterior probability. You are trying to find out the hypothesis, probability of hypothesis based on your data. You go on, at the start, you may have very small amount of data, but afterwards you can have more amount of data. So you can go on refining your hypothesis and the probability associated with that, right? So that's the idea. Idea is that you have to basically find out the probability in favor of your hypothesis. Hypothesis can be anything. In favor of your hypothesis based upon data. In Bayes theorem, so that's the goal actually. That's the goal you are looking for. What is the goal? You are trying to find out the probability of a certain hypothesis based on data. Probability of a hypothesis given data. And this is also known as the posterior probability. Okay, so how it is given as? It will be given by PH. What is PH? PH is the probability of the hypothesis. No data is given to you. Initially, when no data is available to you, what is the probability of your hypothesis? And the example that I'm trying, very crude example, not a very good example I'm taking, which is correlating with the formula. But since it was simple, so I just took this example. In the city of Delhi, you're trying to find out the businessman, right? So initially, when you have no data available, what is the probability of being a businessman? Let us say this probability is 0.60 without any data. This probability is known as the prior probability or a priori probability. Right? So when you will be given data and based on you decide about your hypothesis, you decide about the probability of the hypothesis, this is known as posterior probability. When you don't have data, right? And what is the probability associated with your hypothesis? That is known as a priori probability, prior probability. Now this is to be multiplied by probability of data given hypothesis. And this is also known as likelihood function, likelihood probability of data. And this needs to be normalized with probability of data. We'll see that how. Let's take this example of businessman. So you live in Delhi and you are trying to find out businessman, the probability associated with that, if you look at a person, you should be able to tell how many are businessmen like that. You have to associate a probability to your city that what is the probability of finding a businessman. So let's say it is 0.6. So that means it directly reflects PH. This is the probability. So our hypothesis is that we have to look for the businessman, right? We have to find out the probability of the businessman. But the prior probability is 0.60. So let us say we start getting the data. Now, what is the data? The people who drink tea, right? And they are businessmen. Given businessman and people who drink tea also, this probability is 0.90. Correct? So this is our PD given H, probability of data given hypothesis. So what is this? Probability of the people drinking tea given they are businessmen also. This is 0.90. So we can say that people who are businessmen drink more tea. Very crude example, as I said, just to correlate this this example with with these terms. And we are also interested in who are not a businessman. Initial probability, we have probability associated with businessman is 0.60, and probability not a businessman is of course 0.40. Then we need to have one more data, which is probability that the people drink tea, but they are not businessmen. Here it was that probability the people drink tea and they are businessmen also is 0.90, but probability the people who drink tea and they are not businessmen is 0.30. Okay. And there is amongst the population, there are chances that the people are not businessmen also, and they don't drink tea. They don't drink tea also. That's why this probability is there. The four probabilities are there. Probability you are a businessman, which is actually your PH, which is the prior probability. Probability that the person drinks tea and he is a businessman also, given he is a businessman, is 0.90. Probability some person is not a businessman is 0.40, which is obvious, 1 minus 0.60. And the fourth probability is the probability that the person drinks tea, but he is not a businessman. That is also possible, and which this probability is 0.30. Okay. And what we are interested in is, we are interested in finding out the businessman given some person drinks tea. We are interested in the posterior probability that the person is a businessman given that he drinks tea. What is the probability of a person who is a businessman and who drinks tea also? That means probability of H given D. This probability we want to find out. Probability of a businessman given some person drinking tea. This is given by, we can represent it by probability B, which is for businessman, slash T, which is for that they drink tea also. This is data, this is H, this is hypothesis. You can correlate with the general formula. This is given by PH. What is our PH? Probability of the hypothesis. The probability of the hypothesis is that probability of businessman is 0.60. So it is to be in place of PH, you will replace it with PB. The value of PB is 0.6 into probability of data given H. That means probability of T oblique businessman. We have this probability of T oblique businessman, which is 0.90. So in the numerator, what will come? 0.60 into 0.9 divided by the probability of data. That means probability of tea, drinking tea. So probability of drinking tea, because the people who drink tea may or may not be businessmen. Okay. The probability of businessman is 0.60. Probability of drinking tea for a businessman is 0.9. So 0.60 in the denominator, we are applying the total probability theorem. 0.60 into 0.9. And there are certain people who are not businessmen, but they are drinking tea. So that means it is 0.4 into 0.3. So how the formula will be there? PH given D, this is by probability of hypothesis given data. Probability of a businessman given the person drinks tea is given by probability of a businessman into probability of drinking tea given businessman divided by the probability of drinking tea. Right? The person drinks tea. This is a total probability theorem, because the probability of a person drinking tea, that means drinking tea is an event. So it can be true for businessmen also and for not businessmen. So if you apply the total probability theorem here, so the probability if someone is drinking tea and he is a businessman is 0.81. So all in all, what I want to say is that Bayes theorem, Bayes is was a mathematician who gave the Bayes theorem based on the general events. I will, in my tomorrow's lecture, I will explain more, because these are all probability distributions. PH given D, PH, this likelihood function, This probability of data, these are all probability distributions. What type of distributions are these? We will talk about these distributions tomorrow. But what is Bayes theorem? Probability of a hypothesis given data. This is given by probability of the hypothesis into probability of data given hypothesis, which is also known as the likelihood probability divided by the probability of data. Right? So I finish my lecture here. If any questions are there, you can ask, but I will continue from the Bayes theorem in my tomorrow's lecture, next lecture also. If any questions are there, I can take up the question, or I will end the lecture and we will start tomorrow. Chaliye, theek hai, I think time is over and I'm finishing the lecture. So you can ask your questions tomorrow also, and from here only I will start. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.